again, this is the GODORT Legislation Committee annual meeting, June 11th. So far, we have Bernadine, Robbie, and I are here. We don't have anything to vote on right now, so this will be an update meeting, but we've had some things that have happened this year that we can talk about. We'll skip the meeting minutes since I don't think we have a quorum. I don't think 6 is a quorum for, 3 is a quorum for a committee of 6, but someone correct me. The first item of old business is an update about the resolution to support and commend the work of government information preservation since January 21st, 2025. This took us about a year or more to get through the process, but finally it was passed by the ALA Council as part of the second council agenda, which took place in February. Ben Aldred is the small round table representative to ALA Council, and he was there and spoke about this resolution. ALA passed it. I've put the revised text in the agenda and the original text in the agenda. The questions that we have right now are where the action items sit. And Ben, who can't be here today, I don't think, he is looking into this to see when they are going to take care of the action items associated with the resolution. So we will wait to hear back from Ben about this. I see that Danielle and Amanda popped in. So if we want to go back and approve the minutes from the last meeting, the link is in there. I can also put the link, if you didn't have a chance to read it, in the chat for legislation committee members. One moment. And then we can vote on that.
I'm happy to move approval.
Thank you, Danielle. Any objections or corrections? If not, we'll approve the minutes from the January GODORT meeting. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, so any questions about the ALA resolution or where that stands? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item of old business. We had concerns brought to us about the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel memo about the Presidential Records Act and the constitutionality of that. We had concerns brought to us from the general community of ALA through Connect. So we heard the concern, we brought it to our committee. We then took it to steering and asked what we should do. Steering advised, and I've put everything in here, that we reach out to other ALA units to see if they were taking action on this. Reach out to the Depository Library Council to see if they were discussing this or what kind of actions they were taking. We did all of those things. We heard back from folks. The ALA units that were aware of it were monitoring it the way we were. It wasn't too long after that, the American Historical Association, along with American Oversight, a nonpartisan oversight organization, took legal action. And the good news is, on May 26th, an injunction granted, they told the Trump administration to stop trying to evade the Presidential Records Act. And that's where that sits right now. Other groups, Sangha Sangh brought the issue to Tracking Government Information Group. They weren't aware of it, but they added it to their list of, they don't preserve government information, but they do track all of the efforts to eliminate it or to preserve it. And so that got on their radar. Some other ALA units were doing what GODORT is doing and looking at it. ALA's Office of Public Policy and Advocacy, is certainly disappointed, and they were monitoring it. So that's where all of that stands. I put some background information in the agenda. I put the injunction. I put the original DOJ Office of Legal Counsel memo, which is just that. It's a memo. It's an opinion. And thank you to Danielle for providing some context. That was very helpful. And thank you to all the members of GODORT who participated in trying to help us figure out what was going on with this, and all the members of ALA who, let us know what their groups were doing. So that all worked the way it should work, and at the moment has a happy-ish sort of outcome. The final old business is policy and procedures manual updates. We did work on this in June 2024. We did a slight revision last summer to note the absence of a GODORT counselor to the small tables counselor taking that place. We're going to have a GODORT counselor again. We made additional changes this June to note that the chair of the legislation committee will no longer be the person that liaises with the ALA Committee on Legislation. Instead, that will be the GODORT counselor. And then we took out some outdated language about wikis and timeframes and meetings. And so this committee soon, or in the near future, will agree on those updates and make sure we get those to our bylaws committee people. One thing to note is that because GODORT is undergoing some changes to how we are structured and how many committees there are and the roles that those committees play, that there may be some additional changes. We did reach out to publications about the publication of resolutions and whether that's going to be in DTTP, but as you may know, there are conversations about the future of that publication, so we're waiting to hear on that. So right now we've just, the updates are out there. If you see anything obvious, like a typo I've made or anything that needs to be included, make a note of that. Otherwise, we're pausing on that. So those are all of my updates. Are there any questions? Okay, so any new business? Bernadine? Bernadine, I see you have your hand up. Are you able to unmute?
Can you unmute me?
You are unmuted. You can unmute yourself. We can't do that, but you are unmuted. Go ahead. Well, you've muted yourself again, so try. There you go.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes my computer doesn't want to do the right thing. I'm wondering about the resolution on preservation. James Jacobs and others would like to be able to put that whole resolution out on their sites and start the publicity, because it's quite a while ago that we worked on that resolution, and what we really need now is action. And
yes. That's what I was noting earlier. Oh, Julia, do you have an update about that?
The official resolution as passed was publicly made available on ALA's site, and I did send that information to James so that way he can help disseminate it. We are waiting on some of the other action items that the resolution stipulated, but getting a response about the timeline as to when that will actually happen has been delayed. But myself and Ben have been working with trying to find out this information and communicating to James as we get updates.
Okay, and I would like at the actual ALA meeting in Chicago for Godart to have copies of that resolution available to hand out at the several meetings that Godart's going to have.
Okay, I could do that.
Thanks, Julia. And I did put the original text, as I noted, in our agenda. I also put the winter agenda of ALA Council, which shows that they passed it, in the agenda, and the revised text that Julia was referring to that was made publicly available. So yes, Bernadine, the email discussion noted that the actual action items and trying to find this even on ALA's website, was difficult, and we're waiting for more. So I trust that Julia and Ben will find out what there is to find out as soon as possible and let the rest of us know. But thank you, yes, for
There'll be about 15,000 librarians in Chicago, and most of them won't come to our Godart meeting. But I was hoping that perhaps the resolution could be at some of the handout stations where they give away bookmarks and stuff like that, that there might be some way to publicize it that way, and also to make sure that McGirt and CERT get the resolutions, because both of them are very supportive of Godart.
Yeah, those, they have been, it has been put out on Connect. There are some opportunities that Godart members are going to have in maybe the hospitality room. So I'm sure those in attendance will do their best to spread the word and let people know what's happening. And especially once ALA is able to take some action on the action items, that will be a good opportunity to let people know about it. But thank you, Bernadine, for the reminder.
Thank you.
Any other, that was really old business. Anything else anyone wants to bring up for discussion?
As a follow-up to that, I'm wondering, does Godart at ALA, like as a roundtable, have like a table of some kind, or are we just
Julia, we have several things happening. So Julia, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I don't believe we have like a table, but we will have time at the ALA Connect Lounge where I'll be staffing that with another Godart member. And we're allowed to have handouts and things like that to give to people who are interested, as well as talking with people who come up to us. So I'll make sure that this is something that I have as a handout to give out to people who are interested. And I will bring, handouts with me whenever I go to other meetings and stuff, and try and pass that along to people, especially at things like the Roundtable Coordinating Assembly and things like that. So I'll make sure that this is available as a physical handout that I can give to people and try and disseminate this information.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, that is awesome. Any other discussion on this?
Well, I think there also will have copies at the awards celebration.
Yes, I think Julia will take copies wherever she goes.
Because a lot of people come that aren't Godart active in Godart meetings, but they do come to that reception.
Yeah, thanks, Bernadine. Those are all good ideas. Anyone else have anything for discussion? Danielle?
I'll just add that I know James Jacobs will be in attendance at ALA in person, since his book is getting one of the awards. And I'll make sure that he's aware that the resolution is being disseminated. I just checked, it's not yet publicized on Free Government Information, his blog site, since we're still in the midst of our academic year and are still very busy. So we'll circulate, I'm sure, on gov.gal. He will circulate on gov.gal once that's up and done. And yes, Julia shared he's presenting for the juried program on Monday. They did the dynamic triplets of Jim and James Jacobs and Linda Kellum did a presentation yesterday for an ACRIL subcommittee too. So preserving GovInfo is hot.
That'll be great. And he'll certainly get the word out to lots of folks. So thank you, Danielle, for that little tidbit. Anything else? We have a short meeting today, unless there's anything else. I will, if we want to move on to updates, I will say that several of us are still participating in ALA's bill tracking project, which tracks state legislation that is adverse to libraries and librarians. And this ties into an early request about expanding the focus of the legislation committee beyond federal legislation. And I will say that when I looked at our policy and procedure manual, there's really not anything that prohibits us from focusing on state or international or any other sort of governmental information legislation. There were a lot of things built in based on the previous structure of how ALA connected with GODORT, which is no longer the case. So I think the fact that we are already partnering with the Public Policy Office to track the state legislation, it falls under the purview of the legislation committee. Julia, did you have any thoughts about that?
I do have thoughts, and I think that it would be amazing if legislation could focus on not just federal policy. I mean, I'm glad to hear that our PPM doesn't have any restrictions written into it, because if there were, I would say, do you mind modifying that to look at all levels of government? But since that is available as, there's no restrictions, I think that we should be encouraged to focus on any legislation that happens at any level of government.
Danielle?
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure when you brought it up, because in a lot of things it does say like federal, information. But when I looked at our PPMs, especially at the beginning, our charge, right, it just says legislation. Now, deeper into the policy and procedures manual, it made reference to all these specific federal things because of ALA's Public Policy Office, and that we were liaising with them, we were doing things with them, informing them, they were informing us. But with that, when I looked at it, there's nothing to prevent us from looking at state and local issues. And I will say that the reason I missed GODORT meetings this week is because our big academic consortium conference overlapped with this meeting, and I had to be at that. But the keynote speaker there was from every library, and she's a public policy advocate, and they had like what is on the horizon, issues that they are paying attention to. And one of them was like state legislation that criminalizes librarianship, criminalizes materials. So they do still see that local and state legislation as a threat that they are paying attention to. So, it's a good time for us to really be clear about what this committee is looking at and what we're helping with. And that very tangible ALA adverse bill tracking project, Danielle's helping with that, I'm helping with that, is a way that we can do that. So thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, no, and big shout out to Robbie, because she really raised the issue of us having an advocacy toolkit, particularly at the local level. And I think the seeds were planted and have blossomed with her thought leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, thank you, Robbie. Yeah, that was excellent. And there is a more concerted and like cooperative effort among people to stay informed and when appropriate, take the kind of action that we can take within our limited spheres of influence, what our institutions allow, what we as volunteers have time to do. So thank you all for that. Let's see. And for those of you who might be in this meeting and not aware of it, Godor is reorganizing its committee structure. That's a project that's going to happen in the fall with a group that, Julia, are you participating in that?
Yes, I am.
Yes, so that will be happening. So that I don't know that it means too many changes for this committee, but it could.
The recommendations were that this committee would not have any changes, but you are free to modify and update your PPM as you see fit to match the work that you're actually doing and to match the priorities that you want to focus on.
Okay, yeah, and it seems like we are in the process of doing that. So thank you very much. Liaison updates, I think Aaron, I don't know if he is able to join this meeting, maybe not. So he's got an education committee meeting coming up next, so we can hear his updates during that meeting at noon Central Time. Anything else for the good of the group? Any good ideas, anything you want this committee to look at or pay attention to that we're not already paying attention to? Anything you want us to do? We've done some educational programs in the past. Now is your time.
So I'm pretty new to the question of any kind of advocacy. But one of the challenges that comes up frequently in my part of work, because I do cataloging for the government documents, is the fact that none of the states have depository mandates, which makes it really hard for the state libraries to catalog everything being produced by the states. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this challenge, right? Especially in the electronic world. I wonder if in future there is some sort of planning for advocacy to state legislatures about that this group could think about.
Well, we could certainly inquire, Jill, especially maybe ask Ben or Aaron, who is also on ALA Council, like what is happening. I'm thinking of like with the state libraries, right? And they all meet as a group and they all meet in DC and discuss issues that they are concerned about. So that seems like that could be a place for that. I know that group of librarians, the state librarians, works with ALA's public policy office, at a pretty high level. So we could ask, like what kind of things are out there. I mean, some states make it real difficult. They, sell the information to third parties and then you have to pay for it. And I think there are a few states that have mandates, but it could be a project of just even determining what is what in what state,
And I can share that this is something that I've been working on and off for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And yeah, and Jenny's sharing Have You Asked the State and Local
Yeah.
Interest Group? That's been a project that they've had in the hopper for several years too, of contacting the state libraries, asking what the status of their depository program is, and whether a mandate exists or not is semi-irrelevant if there's not funding and or action to complete the process of depositing. And yeah, I mean, and Robbie's sharing an inventory of the statutory mandates. I think I've seen a LibGuide that has that of what the statutory mandates are, but I've at least started on a semi-comprehensive and I've finished, I think, 10 of the Western states, call it a directory of depository library programs, including their cataloging, their copyright status, contact information, and whether or not there's a local government depository program as well. I think that would be a great project for Godor to work on. And yeah, I would love to have other folks carry it forward and it be part of the LibGuides.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Danielle. I mostly know about it from, conversations with the California state guys and
Yeah.
their challenges with it. But yeah, which I'm sure you've also had those conversations.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I was also going to just say, like, even when there is a mandate, like Danielle was saying, like, if there's not support or the agencies are not committed to doing what the law says, because, like, in South Carolina, there is a state depository program, and there is a law that agencies are supposed to send their materials to the state library. Does that happen on any sort of a consistent basis? Not the way that it should. But I think it would be a really good project, and it's one that I would be interested in as well.
That would be awesome. Obviously, like I think a lot of the states that do have depository mandates, it all kind of fell apart when everybody started just posting things electronically. Anyways.
Okay, so we have time because we're early, but do we see this as a task force that is like cuts across GODORT and includes the local and state interest group, the legislation committee, anyone in GODORT who's interested in helping with it? Like, do we have a shared sheet of this information? That's what I envision. Like, if I were wanting this, I'd want to know, is there a mandate? Is there funding? How much stuff is being deposited and by whom, right? Like, so Jenny's saying Connecticut has legislation about sending to state archives and state library, but you get what they send. Yeah. So yeah, I think like involving state and local is a great idea. Okay. So we can, GODORT legislation can take this up, or Julia said she would pass it on to Tyler. Julia, what else?
I think this is a big lift, so I think it would be better if you're able to coordinate with state and local and also get community volunteers to help with this project. That way it can be as thorough as you want it to be. So I'm going to email our incoming state and local coordinator, Tyler, but Lisa, if you could also reach out to him, and make sure that this keeps moving, I think that would be great, and a great way for the two groups to work together on a shared mission.
So someone mentioned putting it in LibGuide. Could it go in a LibGuide that already exists as a little, like or do you think it's a separate page?
I think it would be better as a separate thing, just because
Separate thing.
our LibGuides are already very large, and adding another layer to a lot of them can make it hard for people to actually find this. And I think that this is something that's really important and distinctive, that it warrants its own LibGuide.
Okay, well, legislation, we don't have any LibGuides. So this could be our first LibGuide, and we could work on it with, I don't know if local and state have a LibGuide, but it could be a shared LibGuide.
I think technically state agency fell under them at some point, but it's not really run by them anymore. So they technically have the state agency project, but it's complicated. But yeah, so either group could take it on as like their official, have an official LibGuide about it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's still going to live on the GODORT LibGuides page. So it would be findable through that landing interface. But yeah, whichever one of you wants to take the lead on this, you can sort out the details with Tyler when he starts his role in July.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's see, I see Amanda. How does legislation feel about this? And Jill, are you on the legislation committee? Do you want to be? Are you on the state and local committee? Do you want to be? Is this something you want to help with?
Task force.
Task force, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Danielle's I'll do whatever Danielle tells me. I'm happy to volunteer and work on it.
Awesome.
It
yeah,
seems like she has she's my neighbor here. So.
Yeah, I was going to say she's gotten it started already.
Yeah.
And, as they say, hard to say no to a person looking at you rather than a listserv call. Right. It's like, I don't have time for that.
Well, the
And
good
then,
news is it started. There's a base to grow from to keep up with the plant analogies. I'm just,
Yeah.
so Danielle, would you feel comfortable like passing that on and
yeah,
letting someone else like, so you don't have to be the person always, leading the charge, like passing that on so that someone could kind of see what that looks like, and then, how we put that in a LibGuide. Okay.
yes.
Um,
And I will say too, there's a book, because of course there's always a book or a guide to start from, Tapping State Government Information Sources, which did catalog as of 2003 a lot of the status of state depository programs. It did not cover local. And there was also, I think, American Association of Law Librarians did a semi-comprehensive look around the same time frame, around 2002. So this work has been done in the past. It just needs to be updated.
so I just looked at the link that Jenny sent. Um, Jenny, I know your mic's not on, but from what you can tell, does that, I just resent the link you just sent as if.
I just
No.
accidentally closed it.
Okay, but no, like, are you familiar with this LibGuide, and does it contain like the statute
I
information
don't
too?
know if it has the statute. I know, I'm gonna look at it. I know that
Because it seems like a good place for it to live, because it's sort of like, here are all the states. Here's how here's what they are providing. Here's how you might catalog this stuff.
and I know that Rare and Endangered is also looking at state. They've kind of been working with state and local a little bit. Looking at some of these programs because there's a lot of overlap.
There's a lot. Yeah, and what I don't like to do is duplicate work or put something in so many places that you don't know where to go to find all of it. So if this is like somewhere people already go, it's like cataloging state government information, but like, doesn't it make sense to say they even collect the information to catalog before we, reinvent the wheel or duplicate work, or because we could just have a link in that guide that it's like the state statutes, or the state statute in each state's page.
And I would say, having worked at right now, trying to organize 140 LibGuides at our state library, is that you can have this content, but like I've got people who would never consider, they're going to see cataloging and they're going to walk away, but you can reuse this content in another guide, right? And I would think that to have like a guide for state depositories that was coordinated between different groups, and we can reuse the content that exists and then add stuff. That's just my suggestion.
That's a great suggestion. No,
I'm really big on mapping boxes and LibGuides.
Yeah, you've worked, and I'm big on mapping, and but that allows you to change, I guess, like mapping or reusing the content. But Jenny, you've worked on so many Godot LibGuides, and I've only helped a little bit with the voting one. So Amanda says, agree with all of that. Okay, so Danielle and Jill will come up with a plan, and I will reach out to the cataloging folks, and we can talk about this not at the steering meeting in a little bit, but at the next regular steering meeting we have when the new incoming group of Godot folks. Does that sound good, Julia?
Yep, that sounds good. And I already emailed Tyler for state and local.
Awesome, thank you. That's hilarious, Jenny. Okay, anything else? That's super, guys. And often at the end of our meeting, someone has some great idea that like we act on and get some movement. Anything else?
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
was just
Jill.
say, Danielle, Jill, if y'all are gonna be on an email thread, feel free to loop me in. I would love to work with y'all on this. I think it's an interesting and important project.
Yay, thanks,
Yeah.
Amanda.
Yeah, again, like I'm new to advocacy and I'm not the expert on legislation that Danielle is, but I am the one who's like running around being like, what's been cataloged? What hasn't been cataloged? What can I mine from Internet Archive?
That's awesome. Robbie has just volunteered too.
Oh, me
So
too.
it
Okay.
sounds like some sort of
It's gonna be a party.
asynchronous, task force, that there's a need. And I mean, Jill, I think advocacy starts with being informed and knowing what's out there, and that can really be more powerful than people think. Right? That kind of quiet librarianship, and sharing information is a form of advocacy that is overlooked. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
I think my experience too is that people just think it's already happening. So just raising awareness that it's not
Is
is
important.
a big thing. Yeah.
Where are you, Jill?
Oh, I'm at San Jose State.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Daniel and I are neighbors.
you
Just
are.
up the street of Stanford.
That's awesome. Okay. Thank you all. Thanks so much. Good discussion. Maybe I'll see some of you in the next meeting. Very nice. Jill, nice to meet you. Amanda, thank you. Are you finished with defending and tenure and all of that, Amanda? That's why I didn't. No, you're still doing that, but you're still volunteering. Okay, that's why I
Yes.
didn't like.
I'm bad at saying no to things, especially when I find them interesting. No, my tenure portfolio is due in September. So
Okay, that's why I
I have a
didn't.
weekly standing meeting with my other colleague who's also going up in the fall. So we can
Okay.
get all of our documentation done ahead
Well,
of time. So
I didn't put you on the spot specifically because of that, but you just could not say no to the
I
unspoken.
couldn't resist.
That's awesome. Well, a good group of people to work with. So thank you all. Have a good rest of your afternoon. Thank you for your time is precious and we all have too many things to do. So I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this and thoughtfulness because I do think it matters. I think, small contributions and changes lead to big things. So thank you. Have a good afternoon.